The Pacific Northwest Cascade Mountain Range is a spectacularly scenic area, and in the distance, one of its most beautiful of its peaks is Mount Hood, and 1 hour west lies the delightfully progressive city of Portland, Oregon, and Portland International Raceway, and that is where today, the 30th consecutive uninterrupted season of SRO Motorsports America World Challenge competition continues with round 10 of the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X Championship, all part of the 59th annual Rose Cup races presented by Fast Life TV. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine with us down trackside. And Calvin, you take a look at this glorious field of GT4 machinery, some excellent manufacturers well represented in this field.
It's a real melting pot, Greg. We've got 10 different manufacturers in the field here today, 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 slots, led by the Ford Mustang on the pole. Drew Staveley, a brilliant qualifying lap here yesterday. Jason Wolf in the first of the ST Racing BMWs right alongside him. But look for Greg Leafuge. He starts 8th, but boy, was he fast yesterday. They changed the setup on that Steve Cameron Racing BMW, and he took it to the front.
Yeah, he and Staveley were really the standouts of that race yesterday in terms of sheer pace. Staveley coming from almost dead last up to a great finish, and what you talked about with lit the fuse, is that's what we're saying, with the way he's been driving lately. And this track, it might be flat, but it presents some great challenges. And here to give you a tour is a longtime Porsche standout driver who is, well, okay, we're going to just kind of keep going on here with what's unfolding with the grid here, but give you a look at this track. And again, 1.97 miles, 12 turns. And Cal, we've talked about it before. It's flat. Doesn't mean it's not a big challenge.
It's a big challenge. It starts with the first corner, particularly this massive field trying to thread their way through there carefully. The first sector there, as you see it in red, very tight and twisty. You need a lot of patience there. Key corner is that tight right-hander onto the back straightaway. As you see, that straightaway bends. Hard to make a move even if you get a good jump onto it. And then really fast stuff to finish off the lap. Really tricky track, tough to pass on, but tire degradation has not been a factor all weekend long. Very cool conditions here for July.
For those of you not necessarily familiar with this GT4 Sprint X format, a tire degradation is something that has to be considered, because in this form of racing, yes, there's 2 drivers in the car, there's a mandatory pit stop. There's no tire changes.
No, a 60-minute race. That pit stop window happens between minute 25 and minute 35 of the 60-minute event. And then there's just a driver change. 75 seconds is the minimum delta time on pit lane, so you can't be underneath that, otherwise you get a drive-through penalty. You don't want to be too far above it, otherwise you're giving time to the competition.
And we have the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X National Championship, which has 2 categories, Pro-Am and Am. But embedded within here, Cal, is the Western Regional Championship. It is their 8th round. And we've got a team and a car in particular, the ST Racing entry, the number 28, has a big opportunity here to make a big step toward a championship here. But before that happens, we have to get this field underway. Let's get down to the front of the grid for that special command.
Fast Life TV's here. Drivers, start your engines.
Great job by Brooke DeBoer, who is technically the producer of Fast Life TV. Of course, husband Derek, a driver. And the 2 of them put together that absolutely great program. And they are presenting this entire weekend of Rose Cup races here this weekend. And she did a great job to get this field set and ready to go. And looking down this great lineup of cars, we talked about it. Ian Lacey racing with the time by Staveley on the front row, joined by Jason Wolf, who had a great time in qualifying in the ST Racing number 38, then the 47 NOLA Sport team. Big lead still in that national Pro-Am category championship, but it's been trimmed a little bit as of late. They're not totally comfortable. And then a team that wasn't even in the first couple of races has now shown up and is really looking awfully good. That is the Murillo Racing entry. And we get word now we are ready to have a look at this track through the eyes of a longtime Porsche Top Gun driver and the Flying Lizard co-owner, Darren Law, with our Porsche track preview.
Coming down the front straightaway into the turn 1, 2, 3 complex is a very tight chicane, the tightest corner on the track, and probably the biggest brake zone. It's very wide and inviting and easy to try and go underneath someone for a pass, but once you get into this corner, it tightens up a lot, and it's only 1 car wide. Through here, you go down to 2nd gear and cut through both curbs to get out onto the back straight. As you come off of this corner, you exit wide and try and get a good run up into turn 4 and 5. This is a long radius arc, no braking. It's just basically a breathe on the throttle to get the car to turn and then steer it back to the inside coming into turn 6. This corner here is down to second gear, fairly tight. You want to get a good run off of this, but you need to be very careful. Again, there's not a lot of brake zones. This next corner here, turn 7, leads onto the back straightaway. This one is critical. This is your top speed section, about 130 mile an hour top speed. As you come through the next 2 corners, turns 8 and 9 are really just arcs down the back straightaway. They don't mean a whole lot, but this leads into your second hard brake zone. Really, there's only 2 brake zones on this track where you can get a pass done. But this point here, once you get underneath somebody, you have to be very careful. This is from 5th gear down to 3rd. Very tight through here. You've got to let the car exit really wide and make sure you get a good run onto the front straightaway, again, to get yourself set up for top speed down the front straight and into your brake zone for turn 1. And there's a lap of Portland.
Track preview. Cars out for the first and completing their first of 2 formation laps, and then we'll go green for 60 minutes of competition here for round 10 of the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. Good look there at that number 34, the Murillo Racing entry. And that's the car we were talking about, Cal. They, running in the Eastern Championship with Christian Shimshak and Matthew Fosnot, and they've certainly been a factor there. And a late decision to come to Sonoma and run the Western Championship, bringing Kenny Murillo from the data engineer position behind the driver's seat, and they've gone on a tear.
3 in a row. Going for 4 here today. Bit of work to do. They'll start from row 2, but still a really nice lap by young Kenny Murillo yesterday. He'll line up behind Jason Wolf in that ST Racing number 38 BMW that he shares with Samantha Tan. They had a nice run here yesterday. But I think this is anyone's game, particularly with that driver change halfway through this event. Theoretically, it should be a faster or higher graded driver who's starting this race here today and then turning it over to the driver who has a little less experience, but sometimes that plays into how you're graded, and certainly for Kozaroff and guys like that, Chris Wilson, they're going to be trying to make some moves late in the going, as they'll be the second driver in their lineups this weekend.
Lights are out on the Acura Pace and Safety vehicle. We are ready to go racing here at Portland International Raceway as the field starting to queue up, line astern. We talk about this a lot, but it's a big regulation that you've got to be in formation. You can't show more than a headlight out of line until that green flag flies. When it does, it is game on. And this is a big field of cars. Everybody looking really good right now. And the new Shelton chicane, it has been renamed, can cause some issues. Everybody has to exercise some really stout judgment as we head down into that section of track as we get ready to go racing here at the 59th annual Rose Cup races. Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X. Ooh, little early look by a couple of cars. Now the green flag flies. And Staveley doing a nice job and an aggressive move by Jason Wolf to tuck in his second. Look at the other ST car trying to get down the inside, Cal.
Great start there by Hart. He gets all the way up to second spot as everyone compresses there trying to get through that Shelton chicane. Little delay there at the back.
There's a little damage to one of the Ginettas. I think it may be the number 15 entry at the very back. That's a real shame. Second of the U.S. Racing Dynamics cars, but up front, the rest of the field, everybody able to get through. Is a little snug, though.
Yeah, look at Kenny Murillo. He's dropped back to about 7th or 8th from the second row of the grid. Certainly Foley had a nice start. So we now see that Ginetta, the 15 car, a little bit of damage there to the hood. A little touch there in the compression into that brake zone.
Yeah, just didn't quite time it right and got into the back. Meanwhile, a guy that looks like has moved up smartly from his 7th place starting spot, Alexandre Prima, the Ramsey Racing EXRT by Prima. Red Mercedes had a great launch. There he is, just showing the nose. He's up in a 5th, Cal.
Yeah, and he has a ton of experience. He's not going to be intimidated with the drivers that he's around right here. So Gottsack got a really nice start there in the second of the ST Racing BMWs. There you see it. Prima starting to put the pressure on that AMG Mercedes power underneath the hood.
Our LMP1 Audi factory driver, currently driving in the Aussie V8 Supercar Series, hugely experienced, and he is giving Gottsacker a heck of a run right now. Now pops back over. Does he have enough of a head of steam to sweep the outside? Doesn't quite look like it.
So Jason Wolf there flashing his headlights, trying to put the pressure on the 2 leaders. Prima really close to Gottsacker as they exit the Shelton chicane.
Behind them, the number 21, Robbie Foley. This is a team that, a pairing, he and Dynan missing the last few races while Dynan recovered from a shoulder injury from VIR. But Robbie Foley has had an immense run of success in some other races recently, and hoping that momentum carries over to here.
Yeah, he's an amazing young talent, really bursting on the scene at the moment. Look at Prima working over Gottsacker. Gottsacker takes that shallow line. Prima squares it up a little bit, tries to get the launch off at turn 7.
Meanwhile, up front, Staveley is the measure right now over Jason Hart. The Mustang, Porsche, BMWs, Mercedes. This is some great stuff. And in the background, you see sitting in the 7th spot overall right now, leading in the National Amateur category, just coming into the turn. There he is, that red, white, and blue Panos Avezzano GT. Matt Keegan, it's his birthday today, and he'd like to give himself a nice present, and his son Cole, who happens to share a birthday. This could be a big day for them. It certainly was here last year.
He loves this racetrack. Had a victory here last year, had a class win here yesterday with Matt Keegan. Here we go. Jason Wolf down to the inside. Take that 2nd place back from Jason Hart.
Prima once again doing everything he can to try and get a run out of turn 2 to get after Harry Gottsacker. Not quite close enough at this stage. It's been interesting to see the dynamic here between these different manufacturers, but here's a look at it. Staveley clean down in that first turn, but Hart, that was a beautiful move.
It was a great move, and Wolf just really played it nice and conservatively. You see a little compression at the back of the back. Disrupts 15's progress here. Just a big stack up.
Watch that. Yeah, right there. You can see the 67. That is the Porsche from the Racers Group. That was Chris Belomo. And he had to check up because another car stopped right in front of him, and James Lee just couldn't get it woed down in time. And that's the 2nd day here for that 67 Porsche to have been dealt some sort of contact. Yesterday, they had a problem when Colin Mullen in the 36 Andretti McLaren got into that car. Was able to continue then. Hopefully they will be here, but this car, that damage looks pretty significant, Cal.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to see any further action here today. Up front, Staveley really stretching things out. Wolf now up to the 2nd spot after that move on Hart. 1 lap earlier, big battle there at the back there. Leah Fuge and Murillo battling hard. Car that Leah Fuge had yesterday, what a setup they put on that. Steve Cameron threw everything in the kitchen sink at it, and it worked perfectly. He just skived his way through the field, 2nd overall, and won his class. And actually trimmed a little bit out of Hart and Travis's championship lead with the victory yesterday.
Big surprise here is the 34 Murillo, as you said, qualified 4th and has fallen back into the 8th spot. You just wouldn't have expected that. Another car to keep an eye on here, sits 10th right now. We're used to seeing it. It's a white number 5 Ginetta. This weekend it's a silver Audi GT4 LMS, and that is Casey Dennis, and he has reeled up onto that group as well. So a lot unfolding here in that first top 10. There's Dennis taking a run right now at Leah Fuge.
Yeah, it's a great run for him. He's got a real talent, that's for sure. We've seen it earlier this season as they now switch to the Audi.
Yeah, they said that decision was sort of twofold. One, they weren't sure they'd be able to get the Ginetta fixed from Baders off at Sonoma. And he said, 2, even if we did, I just didn't think the Ginetta was going to be quite the package for this track with that long, 2 drag race straights between some twisty stuff. Thought the Audi might be a little bit better, and he's giving it a great run now. He's got Leah Fuge in defense mode.
He really has, and after the win yesterday, we questioned Leah Fuge, will you change the setup as good as the car was? And he said, well, we can't help ourselves, and I wonder if they did tweak it, whether the track just gone away from them a little bit. Certainly not displaying the pace they had here yesterday, where it was immense.
A little wiggle there by Dennis. That'll cost him just a little bit, but he is working hard. But boy, Staveley, impressive out front, Cal. He's opened up almost a 2.5-second margin over some awfully talented drivers.
Yeah, new fast lap at 118.4. Look at the power and the way it just puts it down. Traction is beautiful right now. Those Pirelli P0 still delivering monster grip. Very little tire degradation here this weekend. We've seen it in all of the races.
Hart now, a little bit of a margin building back to Gottsacker. And again, Gottsacker has a mirror full of red Mercedes and in Prima.
A mirror full of a red Panos last year, remember?
Yeah, exactly.
What a weekend it was for Harry Gottsacker, getting his first win. And a 2nd place on day 1 to Ian James.
And right now, Keegan has Murillo hunting in his mirrors, that orange and black Mercedes. Very, very close in spots to Keegan.
Murillo there, kind of middle of the road there. I'm not sure if he's just defending from the guys behind him or whether he's just trying to get air to the front end of that Mercedes. Still relatively cool here today, just climbing into the upper 70s. So it shouldn't be an issue, but sometimes if you've taped off some of the ducting, expecting it to be even cooler still, and you suddenly get in traffic, maybe he's dealing with some temperature-related issues.
Well, things have settled just a little bit. Let's find out what's unfolding down in pit lane, right?
Well, you guys talked about the disappointing start for the Ginetta just a little while ago. Will Watana-Wankiri joining me down here in pit lane. Unfortunately, the team has just had to push the car behind the wall. Do you know what happened with your teammate behind the wheel?
Well, you know what, going to turn one, he took the outside, which where he should have been, which was great. However, you know, if we were just a little bit more on the inside, potentially could have just avoided, you know, rear-ending on to the Porsche. You know, could have been cold brakes and maybe tires not really up to temp yet, but, you know, that's racing, and we're going to have to try again for the next time, unfortunately.
Difficult into the weekend, but overall, how would you assess your experience in Portland?
You know, being my debut weekend in the pros racing, it was a great experience. All the SRO staff were amazing. Everyone's super friendly. And, you know, it's good racing out here. Everybody's super aggressive, and I love it. You know?
Will we see you later this season?
You know, I'm going to work my way onto getting back into the seat again, that's for sure. So I'll be out there, you know, knocking on the doors. So everybody get ready.
That's good to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Young man who got to start in high-speed competition in canyon racing, as he said, spirited driving on remote roads. But he said a dream of going pro racing began in 2004, and he realized it this weekend. A great story. Drew Staveley has continued to march away at the front. The margin now up to 1.6 seconds, but Jason Wolf got through on Jason Hart, but has not really been able to shake him too much. Then a little bit of a gap back. Gottsacker and Prima continue to argue over 4th and 5th in the overall run order.
See Wolf there, a little bobble through turn 11, just really pushing to try and maximize his speed through that section. Car not quite underneath him. Battle of the Jasons for second. Staveley looks really comfortable right up front, just keeps cutting new fast laps one after another.
I'll tell you another driver duo that we need to continue to give some serious credence to is the Dexter Racing pairing of Warren and Ryan. Ryan put together a tremendous qualifying run, 3rd overall for yesterday. Warren had a good run as well. Look at this now, as Keegan trying to work the outside of Foley heading into turn 4.
The brand new Cayman that the Flying Lizard group are running here this weekend. Foley shook it down at Sonoma a couple of weeks ago. Had that massive hit that's kept Michael Dinan out of action at VIR earlier this season with their primary chassis.
And there in the background, you see that white Ginetta. They have just been, this is their debut in the pro racing ranks here in SRO Motorsports America World Challenge, and they have done a superb job as well. But what a cue this is. Foley, Keegan, Murillo, Leafouge, and then Dexter right there as well, just coming into view.
See Murillo again, middle of the road, and it could be just a defensive strategy against Leafouge, who does have good straightaway speed with that BMW, but just curious to know if he does have some cooling issues going on.
And we'll see Keegan, he's all up over the back of Robbie Foley in one part of the track, and then he'll be 3-4 car lengths adrift in other parts. There's Leafouge, looked inside, now goes back to the outside, trying to figure out anything he can.
Kenny Murillo typically works the data for that team, so I'm sure he's looking at the gauges and instrumentation and readouts to monitor what he needs to do here.
And again, right to the middle. Yeah, and that time he's far enough, I would think, behind the Panos. It's not going to be an air issue. I wonder if he just feels, right now, he just needs to park right in the middle of that track. It's going to make it awfully tough for him to do much with Matt Keegan, but might help him dissuade, I guess, Leafouge.
Jason Hart ooh, that was a interesting line there. We saw that from Matt Keegan on the previous lap. He's getting ever closer to Robbie Foley. You got to be careful there. Kind of getting a no man's land if you overcommit to the apex of turn 7. It is a legit overtaking opportunity, but you have to get it right.
Yeah, his teammate Preston Calvert used it last year, last lap, to win his first GT4 race in the AM category. So it's doable, but It's not something you normally see real early in the race, is it?
No, you want to be blowing out the candles on the cake, not the race right now. So
exactly. Meanwhile, Staveley in that G3 Ian Lacey Racing Mustang just doing a superb job up front. Margin now up to 1.8 seconds.
G3 and Lacey Racing making the switch from the Ginetta chassis to the Mustang this year. They knew it would pay dividends, but it's just taken them a few rounds to really show this kind of form. But it is well suited to this racetrack, and Drew Staveley, as we know, is a great driver and got the job done in qualifying and looks comfortable out front right now.
Drew Staveley building his margin up to over 1.8 seconds over a pretty stout field here. There you can see Wolf and Hart second and third in the BMW and the Porsche. And really everywhere you look through this field right now, Cal, there are tremendous battles for position. Great battles for second, great battles for fourth. Multi-car battle for the sixth spot right now. Just great competition.
We expect a lot of these drivers to stay out there towards the maximum 35-minute drive time. These should be the faster or more experienced drivers in the field right now starting today. Not always the case. There's a couple of teams that have drivers who are equally graded, and they'll reverse the strategy on that. Have their faster driver finish race 2 here that we're looking at today.
Well, as we've been watching Matt Keegan in that red, white, blue Panos after run. Oh, Murillo way off in the escape road in the background.
I don't think he just ran off there with a mistake. It looks like he's pulling off there. I just really say that. Now he launches off again. Maybe he just did get wide through turn 11. We saw Mark Pombo do that earlier today in the TCA race and ended up winning the race. So
yeah, he didn't have to stop. It looked like he stopped to check with an official on something, but he's right back to speed, it looks like, Cal.
Yeah, that was bizarre because he's going so slow when I saw him enter that secondary pit lane there. Maybe he just did a reset or something. Feels it's quicker to come through. There's a shorter pit lane that doesn't have the pit restriction. There you see the dust flying. He just did get wide and elect to take that escape route. Yeah, he doesn't stop for any.
I don't think he had to stop there. I think he was just looking at the official going, is it okay if I go? Official said, yeah, get after it here. So interesting development. So now that that settles a little bit, we were talking about the run that Keegan's been having, and we've been seeing his unique line heading into turn 7, and it's very Calvert-esque, Ryan.
Yeah, the birthday boy doing a great job on track. Preston Calvert joining us, waiting for his chance to jump behind the wheel of the Panos. Last year was such a big weekend for you here in Portland. What kind of emotions does it bring back, coming back to the site of your long-awaited first win in the series?
That's really nice to mention, and yeah, it was a big day for me to finally win class win in this series after working really hard at it for a long time, and we've been really excited all year to get back here. And in this race, Matt has he's the birthday boy. He is, and he's actually both of his kids have the same birthday as well, which is pretty cool. And Matt is really taking it to him out there. He's chasing Robbie Foley, who was the winner at Mosport in the GT3 car last weekend. So he's got some really stiff competition, and he's matching right up to it. So I'm really proud of him.
It's going to come down to you, though, to deliver the birthday gift to the family. You feeling the pressure?
A little bit, yeah. I think you always feel a little anxious, but I just go do my job, and Matt Salton, will have done his job, and we'll see if we can bring it home.
How good is the Panos around this place?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. We do well when there's corners which require drive off. That's what we're really good at, coming off of a corner. So that's why we're pretty good at street circuits, and this place is somewhere in between a street circuit and a longer track. So yeah, we like it.
Good luck, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
He brings up a good point with that Panos, doesn't he, Cal? That it's good with getting off the corners, and it's really good up until you get into that top gear, and then it lays down just a little bit. And on tracks with longer straights, it really hurts them. Here you don't have real long straights, do you?
I'm actually surprised that Leofuge's not able to put a little bit more pressure on him towards the end of the straightaway. We saw the car vulnerable yesterday where it got past the ease down the end of the straightaways. Today it looks to be in slightly better shape.
Boy, Keegan is doing everything he can to try and get Foley to tighten up his line somewhere and slow himself through a corner.
Foley looks really vulnerable after the Shelton chicane for some reason. Not sure if he's got any sort of gear issue or something coming off that corner. Just seems to immediately want to defend. To defend there because he knows that Keegan's been flying down to that apex with regularity.
And then Lafoge right there in that orange and blue Cameron Racing Products BMW. He got a nice run out of there. See if he's able to do anything. Tough to do it into 10. You get enough of a head of a steam, you can make it work. Can he? See there, Cal?
He is, and that's what we saw a little bit of yesterday, that the Panos was just a bit vulnerable at the end of the far stretches there.
You have to wonder if that very shallow entry that Keegan's using into turn 7 every lap as opposed to as a surprise pass move, it's got to be hurting his exit a bit.
It certainly can. He seems comfortable running it there. I've spoken to some drivers here this weekend about how much of a compromise it is, and they said it's not huge, but certainly it eliminates anyone taking a look down the inside of you and puts you in the attack position in race mode for track position. But it could be the situation that arose right there. But I do think that the Panos definitely struggles on that last 20% of the straightaways compared to some of the other manufacturers. But as horses for courses, certainly the Panos, as Preston alluded to, is very strong off, power down type corners.
And watching that beautiful red Mercedes from Ramsey Racing EXR team by Prima, and you see big data in action on the door. Mark Ramsey, his company is Modec Analytics, and it handles massive data loads and all these different applications. He said, I'm a big data guy, and he said that's one of the reasons that he decided to make the switch to this championship this year after running in a different series last year. He said, we're allowed live telemetry. He said, it's send to the pits, it's not coming back to the car where you can do stuff. He said, but I'm all about data, and to be able to, one, have that data immediately when I get done with the session is huge. And he said the other part of it that's really nice is he said, you've got a true Pro-Am category here, where you can go for outright class wins and not just get buried by a bunch of really fast pros in front of you. And he said it's just been he said really attracted by this championship, and they've been a great addition starting here this week and looking to finish the year up. Oh, yep.
Foley there looking real defensive on Leofuge, starting to come alive a little bit here. So maybe the setup they put on it today is for the longer run. A little bit of debris sitting there towards the approach to the Shelton chicane they've got to be aware of. You saw Foley had to dodge around it there in defense.
If you're just tuning in, you hear Cal talking about the show. Oh, big problem. A lot of fluid coming out from the Andretti McLaren. You can see it getting on that left rear tire, Cal. Almost caused a big moment. There it is again.
Yeah, they've holed something there, or a hose has come loose. Been a really
apparently
difficult
he took
weekend.
a hit, Cal. We just get a report.
Oh, frustration for this group.
See it here. Oh, that was Casey right there. Casey Dennis just getting loose in 11.
Jarrett will be frustrated without that Window World machine.
Yeah.
Had a hit yesterday when Colin Mullen had a braking issue. Tough weekend. It's been rare. They've been always at the pointy end all season long, it seemed like.
Yep, he's just limping it around right now, and it's spewing down on the track.
I'll be careful he doesn't burn down. I assume it's a coolant issue to the engine.
Looks like it. He's just got to, hopefully the crew has been made aware of it and will bring him in immediately. And Belomo behind him now in that number 67 Racers group. The Porsche that they've been running in this Western Championship, the Champagne Caprock Gusto and Breakthrough Fitness machine, able to avoid that moisture. Looks like he's done a nice job of that. Belomo has. Won't be able to continue, but Andretti's second straight day into the pits early, Cal.
Yeah, and it's just one of those weekends. Sometimes racing affects you that way. They've been so competitive all year. Always in the fight for the class victory, at least, if not overall. And this weekend has just not been their weekend.
Yeah, that was just Casey Dennis, just a very talented driver, running a little bit of a wide, tried to save it, came across, and
we got oil leak. Hold on, we got something leaking.
I think Jarrett came in and said there's a problem with the left rear. That's where the oil was going. So he was slipping and sliding on that left rear corner, probably not realizing that he had the oil leak or coolant leak there.
Well, these two guys have been going at it for a little bit here. You saw Jarrett ended up cutting the chicane just a little bit in their little battle. So they've been dueling for a little while here. Yeah, they put the tires back on, but you can see the lack of urgency in that little nod almost said it all, didn't it? Yeah, we're done. So as they retire here, Drew Staveley has built that margin up to about 2.4 seconds in an absolutely superb drive here in his first stint of the day. He'll be turning over to Frank Gannett in just a little bit. Boy, he picks that throttle up down there at 7, and it sounds great, but it sure looks like it really does launch off that corner.
It really does, and those Pirelli P0s are hanging on nicely. We're not halfway through this race so far, but we haven't had to talk a lot about tire degradation here like we did at Sonoma. This racetrack has a lot more grip than Sonoma did, and that allows these drivers to be a bit harder on their tires throughout the course of this 60-minute race. As you said earlier, Greg, no tire change unless you have a real issue, emergency type situation. These 4 Pirelli P0s have to do the full 60 minutes.
Yes. And
they've been running fast lap times. And even at the end, we saw drivers yesterday, 5 minutes from the end of the race, setting their fastest laps of the day.
And we just saw there that Staveley going around the number 17 pastime Porsche from the Racers Group, along with Fast Life TV on the side of that car. Dr. Jim Rappaport, orthopedic surgeon, behind the wheel of that car right now. Talked to the team. Of course, TRG, Kevin Buckler in the group, and they just very upright said, yeah, missed the setup. We're just going to try to do a big setup change in the car overnight here. And again, there's no morning warm-up or the like at these races, so Jim had to just jump behind the wheel of the car and figure it out as he's going, really.
And that's hard when you don't have the experience for the engineer to say, okay, it's going to be a lot better because it's going to feel completely different. Yes. So you have to just kind of work your way into it, try and gain some confidence with the machine underneath you.
And Jim, of course, a driver not a huge amount of experience, relatively new to the sport, so it's a good learning curve, a steep learning curve, that's for sure. And we have a look here at Jason Wolf. Well, he's pushing hard, isn't he? You can see the car dancing around in a little bit of a...
Great young talent.
Really good.
Cut his teeth in World Challenge competition with success and then went off to Europe. It's been under the guidance of Nick Jonsson, longtime sports car driver from Sweden. Been pointing Jason in the right direction, giving him great advice, and then under his apprenticeship, he's really going to do a lot of great things now. Jason Hart, our championship leader, that was tight there.
Yes.
Just a love tap on the TRG Porsche.
Oh! I don't know that he touched him there. I wonder if Jim was...
He did.
You did?
I think he just brushed him as he was flicking to the other direction.
I think Jim was trying to get out of the way for him a little bit, so he was already maybe arcing that way, and that little touch, yeah, that's a good point. Well, he got away with one there, as did Jim. Nice piece of saving it by Jim.
He kept it together pretty nicely. Yeah. Scary moment. Jason was committed, and Rappaport just trying to get out of the way. Just a miscommunication there.
Jason Hart sitting in the 3rd spot overall, but leading in the National Pro-Am Championship category. Chasing this man, Jason Wolf, who was leading in the Western Pro-Am category in the ST Racing GPI Biotech BMW. And he will be turning over to Samantha Tan. Let's go back, take a look at a close moment here by, yeah, you're right. He did just brush him, didn't he? It was Jason Hart in the back of Dr. Jim Rappaport.
Yeah, I think Jim Rappaport was trying to get over to the right-hand side, and they just brushed there. The slight difference in speed on the exit of the Shelton chicane. Fortunately, plenty of runoff room there. Can't really tell with that black nose on the Nola Sport entry if there was any contact.
That was a great save by Dr. Rappaport. I mean, kept it straight, got it slowed down, realized he could turn and just blend back onto the track where all these guys start to open the wheel up right there. I mean, that was a great reaction to a potentially tough situation. And we have a pit window that's open, Cal.
Yeah, but happened in a hurry, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Here we see our first taker. Jeff Burton's going to come in. Vesco Kozaroff. And this week you'd expect your slightly more experienced driver, Vesco is, over Jeff, going to jump in and maximize his drive time. You see the Murillo Racing AMG Mercedes going for 4 straight. It's going to be a long shot here today, though. Christian Shimshak's going to have a lot of work to do when he gets behind the wheel.
Burton in from 12th overall, but 3rd in class. There comes Kenny Murillo. And Ryan is there for both those stops.
Now, it's not been a great day for either of these teams, obviously, and maybe that's why they're going to come in a bit earlier than others, although certainly the pace of Christian Shimshak recommends him for this role, get him in this car for as long as possible. He's been awfully quick, had pole for race number 1. Kenny Murillo helping him get strapped in here. Christian, of course, the team's regular driver for these Sprint X races, along with Matt Fosnot. These West races that they've been doing at Sonoma and then here, they've been a pleasant surprise to have on the grid. Kenny Murillo saying to me earlier in the weekend, this is most likely the final weekend for him behind the wheel. Shimshak is installed, and with a roar, that Mercedes pulls away.
And Kozaroff out as well in that blue 91 Reardon Racing Audi.
He was mighty here yesterday, got the lead.
Wasn't he?
Initially off the start and didn't relinquish it, came under attack big time.
Interested to see what kind of stops. Oh, look at that stop for Murillo and Shimshak. It's about as good as it gets, 75.7.
That's right in the window you want to be. I say anything more than a second, you're giving up typically to the competition. Got a lot tighter than that, and you're really running the margins too close, I think, in terms of getting that penalty.
Indeed.
Expect Staveley to stay out here a little bit longer before he turns it over to Frank Gannett, coming off a podium run yesterday in class. Jason Wolf has not given up on this chase, though.
No, he hasn't.
We try and keep it tight and give Samantha Tan an opportunity to go for a win here this afternoon.
Burton and Kozaroff, a good stop, too. Not quite as quick as the Murillo car, but a 76.4. So good stop here as we continue to watch Staveley. And again, he is certainly, by Frank Gannett's own admission, Drew's been doing a lot more driving. One of the reasons that I think you see just this extra bounce in both Drew and Frank's steps is they run the Ginettas the last couple of years, but Staveley is an instructor at the Ford Performance School at Utah. Frank learned how to drive race cars in a Mustang, and he said the Ginettas are great. He said, but this is home.
It is. I think it's a great fit for the team, and starting to show the results here this weekend. Been knocking on the door all season long, don't get me wrong. It's not like they've been off the pace, but I think they're finally getting the handle on it, what the car needs, how to drive it well. The results are going to be coming for the second half of this season.
And in a rare kind of a bizarre moment at CTMP, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, you remember Carl Whitmer, who was having a great run in the points with Marco Radisek, and a problem for Marco, couldn't get there. They run the Eastern Championship. Frank Gannett said, we need to get this young man some points. And the second race in particular, Carl had them up in a great spot. Frank had to take over with a lot less experience and drove the race of his life, and we've got huge action up into turn 10.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild there.
Yes, it
Steve
is.
Foley's still very much in the mix there. Ross Smith is having a really nice run in that Sin. Great to see him back behind the wheel.
It is.
Long-time sports car competitor, but more than half a dozen years ago before he had a regular ride.
I think it was in 2010 he won the Porsche GT3 Cup Platinum Class Championship in a romp, but had done a few races with this Racer's Edge team, and both remembered each other fondly, and when this opportunity happened, they both said, let's do it.
Well, that's what you want. You want great relationships, so even if a driver goes away for a few years, they have a happy home to come back to, and certainly Ross Smith and John Meraki have found that comfort factor there. Not a great start for Preston Calvert, taking over the reins from Matt Keegan. 79 seconds, that's leaving 4.5 seconds on the table there. Not a great start for those boys. They've got a lot of work to do here today now to bring home the win.
Absolutely, and I think this is this car, the 28 here, and one of the reasons it's leading so handily in the Western Pro-Am Championship points is this is a driver pairing where the quote-unquote Am driver and John Miller is darn near as good as the pro.
Oh, absolutely.
And that really has given them a great opportunity here.
They have a 44-point lead in the West Pro-Am division coming in here, and there's only 50 points on the table when we leave here this afternoon, so they can gain a few more points, but as Jason Wolf and Samantha Tanu are now up to second, they're teammates, so, and they're having a big afternoon, so maybe that title will not be clinched here after all.
Just watch that stop, 77 seconds even, so probably a second too conservative, but still not a bad stop. I just paused there because I like to hear that.
I like to hear it too. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Starting to see it slip just a little bit. No wheel spin as such. We can just see the back starting to slide just that. Have a little bit there coming off at turn 7.
Just making sure the rears are nice and warm for Frank when he gets on board.
How close will they push it here? Will they come in this lap or the next one? You got to be careful in case you have an issue on that in lap and don't make the cutoff. They're going to go for one more. I'd imagine that Jason Wolf will do the same thing.
No.
Looks like he cut in at the last minute, really carrying a lot of speed. You heard the tire squeal as he went to the brakes for that line there.
I think Hart stayed out though, so pushing the envelope. Remember, yesterday that strategy of doing that one extra lap really hurt Kozaroff because he hit traffic. But I think in this case for Staveley and Hart, there's nobody in front of them, and they have another free run lap as long as nothing happens that slows them down here. Meanwhile, here comes the number 38, Jason Wolf, bringing the ST Racing entry in, Ryan.
This marks perfectly Samantha Tan getting set to take his place behind the wheel. These BMWs for ST Racing have been awfully fast. Doesn't matter which one it is. All the BMWs under their tent have been quick here this weekend. Samantha getting strapped in. This car was running in the 3rd spot when it came to pit lane. Dropped down to 5th as it stands right now with some cars going by. I can tell you that Matt Travis is getting ready. He will be taking over for Jason Hart here shortly, so expect that pit stop to come here pretty quickly. Crew's still working on the radios for Samantha. Looks like she's all belted in and should be leaving here shortly.
Tire adjustment going on the front end at least. Can't find a gear. This is pressing seconds. Ooh, lost 2 or 3 seconds there. How will that cycle back out?
That's tough. Everything ready and didn't have the gear when she wanted to go.
Essentially cost you a battle lap. The 75-second delta time pretty much matches a fast race lap here, so you can see they rejoin in essentially the same position they are in, but just 1 lap down on the leader right now.
Boy, Staveley stayed out another lap.
Yeah, I think he needs to come in this time.
Oh, absolutely. He's got to. I mean, he is really pushing the envelope here. There's Matt Travis. The team says internally, he goes by the nickname #World's Fastest Accountant.
There's certainly been dynamite this year. Went on a tear to start the year, 5 wins in a row. Second yesterday when they had the lead and lost it late. Leofuse's charge.
And Jason Hart just doing a superb job in his first stint. Just a very talented driver.
Got the speed, the racecraft. He displayed that perfectly in that opening corner. Little dust up there, taking the car up to second, and finally Staveley slows and brings it to pit lane.
Look at that with a minute as an option. That's cutting it tight.
It is, because if you have a bobble, there's not much room for margin there, but they're trying to maximize Drew's drive time to give Frank Annette the best opportunity to grab that win here today.
The team signaling him into the pits. All right, out comes Drew Staveley. In goes, whoop, little problem there.
It's got to not panic.
Yep.
Got about 45 seconds to get this change done. You lose about 30 seconds just driving down pit lane at the pit lane speed. The rest of that 75 seconds is allocated to getting this driver change done, but they're probably about 5 seconds behind where they'd like to be right now, but the key is not to panic. Just go through your routine.
Yep.
It's typically orchestrated. Everyone has a task. Don't try and make up for something and get out of sequence.
The good thing is they caught that belt issue before he got in and sat on it. That's what can really put you well behind here in the stop. And if they get everything done and they sit for a minute, that's a good sign, and they had that. They wasn't a lot. We'll see what he does as he pulls out right in front of Chris Wilson. And watch that Auto Technic red and white BMW come alive here as well here when they get back to racing, as they are regaining the track. Wilson was going for it, but meanwhile, there's Matt Travis.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gannett's going to be under attack here quickly. Wilson's going to try and get back on the lead lap if he can. Watch for that Nola Sport entry coming through the Shelton chicane right now. Will be all over him shortly.
A little bit of a wiggle, and Wilson going to duck to the inside, and there is Travis as the pit stop window has officially closed here at Portland. And as you said, it's going to be interesting to see just how fast Matt Travis is going to reel him in a hurry, because he's already got a lap on. And even though you're not changing tires, the tires will cool a little bit while you're sitting there. And Travis, he wants to get by now.
He does, but we've seen it this year. Frank is really gaining confidence in this car, and he's really up on the wheel a lot quicker than kind of that warm-up period that drivers that do not have a lot of experience like to have. And he's liking getting these results. You get the taste of those podiums, you spray some champagne, you like it.
And he's doing really a solid job here, considering that he missed the first practice day when they had a half shaft break during the session. He was supposed to be out in the car. And so the setup wasn't right either, and they just threw a big change at it. And when he got behind the wheel of the car in yesterday's race, he hadn't had a chance to run the setup, and he said, but I liked it. And he did a nice job, turned it over to Drew in a position where Drew could really do something with it. All right, Hart laying on the brakes and straight lines to the apex. And Frank doing the right thing there, just didn't try and close down. There would have been contact.
Big battle right behind these two between the two ST Racing BMWs. John Miller behind the wheel going hard action there with Samantha Tan. There they are.
Yep, Miller in the 28, Samantha in the 38. Going to be coming up here, seeing if they can catch Frank. Nice thing for Frank to do, even though obviously the Porsche and the Mustang probably get around this track a little bit differently, having the opportunity to follow Matt Travis a little bit here.
He's not letting him go.
No, he's not.
So Miller made that move down into the Shelton chicane. They came across the stripe. Tan had the position. Miller now moves ahead of the teammate. I love seeing Frank in there. And this is fun to watch when you see someone just make these massive gains in speed.
Yep.
And confidence.
Yeah, I mean, look at the line. He's driving. He's not losing much at all.
It's fun to see these drivers pushing the margins here today on the exit to turn 12. That little bit of the, almost like where the other secondary pit lane comes onto the racetrack. Drivers are starting to get that left rear over there as well, searching for a little bit bigger radius off that corner.
You got to make sure that you don't have a little moment right there, because there's that big barrier that you're running right up along the backside of for the drag strip. You got to be mindful of that. But yeah, if you can open that up, I mean, you'll take anything you can get, right?
That is for sure. Just thinking about the point spread here, we said coming in that the number 28 of Gottsacker and John Miller had a 44-point lead. By Miller getting around Samantha Tan, if he should finish in that way and grab the class win as a 7-point swing, that would move it to a 51-point margin. That would be enough to clinch.
That would be, wouldn't it? With that's a good point. Because they have this round, and then the next two rounds for the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X Championship will have Eastern Division competitors at Watkins Glen and Road America, and then the Western Division returns for that last one. Meanwhile, fastest car on the track, hardly a surprise really, is it, that Vesco Kozaroff and that Reardon Audi.
He's got 14 seconds to make up to the next position, but he's only 18 seconds out of the lead and still a lot of time on the clock. So let's see how much progress he can make. He's on the attack. He's up on the wheel. So he likes to say, I want a sporty race car.
Yeah. Sporty and speedy for Vesco Kozaroff. That's what it's all about. Vesco Kozaroff now behind the wheel of the Burton Lumber Reardon Racing Audi. And he's down the order just a little bit, sitting 5th overall, 2nd in his class. But it comes down to a matter of pace, and that's something that Vesco Kozaroff excels in.
He does. He's got 12 seconds to make up now on the next competitor in front of him, but running much faster lap times by about 1.5 seconds. So enough time on the board to get there.
He will be wheeling it. This turned his best lap of the race, a 1:18.4. And that's a significant bit quicker than most everybody out there right now.
Yeah, he's really fast.
Flying.
He has a great chance to really make up a bundle of positions here if he just keeps the hammer down. Loves this racetrack, swept both of the touring car events here last year. Led early yesterday in this event.
Yep. The only guy quicker on the track right now is Chris Wilson in that Auto Technic Crimson Tide entry at a 1:18.8 the last time by.
Ooh, that was tight there. Miller putting the pressure on Gannett down into the Shelton chicane.
Gannett is, I love to see it. He's racy, he's not just giving it up. Is Miller going to try and then Frank a little bit too gentlemanly there perhaps. He could have drifted over just a bit. And as we're watching this, let's get down to the pits where Drew Staveley is watching Frank Gannett run with great interest.
I think a pretty happy co-driver, all things considered. Drew Staveley joining me, the pole man for this race. We'll talk about that in a moment, but Frank doing a great job after he got in there. He's lost a couple of spots, but he's really come on strong and looks comfortable in these Mustangs.
Yeah, man, Frank's been driving great all weekend. He's putting in some good laps right now, so we'll just see if we can't hang on to it.
Clearly the Mustangs quick around this place. Take us back to qualifying and the speed that you found. You told me early in the weekend you thought you might be a threat for the first couple of rows, but to lock down the pole in this field, that's not bad.
You know, honestly, I was a little bit surprised, right? When the engineer says purple sector 1, good sector 2, and purple sector 3, and then fastest lap of qualifying, that's pretty cool. And I figured I thought it was going to get beat, and then it didn't. Yeah, I mean, just tribute to the team. We got an awesome Mustang. Lots of hard work in between races, and just put it all together, and everything's clicking really well for us right now, and I can't thank everyone enough.
Looking good at the moment. Hey, thanks so much, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's got to be pleased. He coaches Frank up a lot, and Frank has stepped up his game as of late, no question on that, as we're watching them work through here. And of course, we've talked a little bit about this weekend, that the entire event, this 59th annual Rose Cup Racing weekend, presented by Fast Life TV, and that is a production that is done by Derek DeBoer, driving the number 17 machine here right now, the Pastime Fast Life TV Porsche, and his wife Brooke. And a bit earlier in the weekend, we caught up with Derek and asked him about this remarkable motorsports-driven program.
You know, it was just kind of a natural thing with my wife and I, because my path in racing really started probably when I was a 2-year-old, looking up to the guys wearing these suits that looked like superheroes to me. And one night she asked me what dream I hadn't chased yet that she should know about, and I said, I want to be a race car driver. She's a filmmaker. That path started to happen. She saw how crazy it was and thought that we should probably be sharing that with the world. You know, our real hope with that, when we wanted to chase, show us chasing our dreams, was to encourage others to chase theirs as well. So while we have 2 seasons on Amazon Prime, we've got a lot of feedback that people want to see more content more frequently. So we'll be on YouTube now as well, and we need some people to subscribe. We need subscribers there so we can keep doing what we do and keep sharing the story. You know, it's just become a kind of a way of life for our family, and it's Brooke and I and the girls, and they love coming to the races, and they love being a part of the travel and seeing things they haven't been able to see or do before. I mean, just now today I got to give them all a ride in a race car for the first time. There were some big smiles.
None bigger than that face. He is loving what he's doing, pursuing that dream. And then to be able to document it and pass that enthusiasm and passion on to a lot of different people. You noticed on the hood of the car, with this presenting sponsorship for this whole weekend, they did a big ticket discount program where you can text, and get big ticket discounts. They've really taken supporting this series to heart, and I think that's being returned.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful program. It's a great idea, great initiative. See a car a little bit wide, they're dropping some wheels. So I think that may be Ramsey off on the outside in the AMG Mercedes, but getting back to the DeBoer family. Derek's a great racer, puts in great performances regularly, and great to see the support that Brooke, his wife, and the whole family give him to his racing program. Wonderful to have them in the paddock.
Absolutely, and this is a great battle for position in that orange and blue BMW from Cameron Racing right now. That is Sean Quinlan, and Dynan was right behind him, but Shimchak just shot through on Dynan and is already over the pack of Quinlan, then Dynan, then Preston Calvert, and Calvert feeling the heat now from Warren Dexter. I think that's actually Ryan Dexter back behind the wheel of the car now. That white Janetta. This is all for position. Again, not necessarily class position, but overall position, certainly, and way down the inside goes Shimshak.
Shimshak's absolutely flying. He had the pole here yesterday, faded a little bit, said he didn't have the base race of his life, but they ended up with the win anyway with Murillo's performance. And today, he set the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:17.8. So Murillo Racing have got that Mercedes AMG dialed in. I thought they had a technical issue earlier, the way that Kenny Murillo was looking for fresh air on at the nose of that Mercedes, but not so. Car is really strong here in the late going.
And yeah, great lap by Shimshak, and Kozaroff continues to throw down quick laps as well.
Frank Gannett has got to get the hammer down. Look at the backdrop there. This Kozaroff, he is catching this group.
Yes.
And that will then become a battle for the lead in class.
Yep.
Gannett currently holds it in the West Ham Amateur Division. Kozaroff wants another class win, and he is coming quickly.
Well, he's taking that margin from what, 12 seconds down to 7.
Miller
right now,
putting the pressure on for the overall lead.
Yes, he is.
This is not for class. Travis can give this up and still get the class win. How hard will he defend? He's a really savvy, smart racer. Accountant, he knows the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is kind of an interesting scenario, you know, for Miller. Sure, he'd love to get the overall win as a Western, you know, regional champion. You want to beat the national tour guys. However, if he just gets a win in class and doesn't risk anything, they might clinch this whole season here. So how hard does he push? I mean,
Dynan off and on again.
Yeah, that's over in the Shelton chicane. I was going to say earlier, if you didn't join us yesterday and you said, isn't that the festival chicane? It was until yesterday. The Pacific Northwest legendary driver Monty Shelton passed away recently, and they just renamed this the Shelton chicane. Here's what happened to Dynan. Ooh, a little bump there.
He got the full Monty.
Nicely done. Yeah, just Calvert caught that curve as he was, Dynan was trying to sweep the outside of him. And
I think as Preston rode the curve there, he just lost the front end as he jumped in the air a little bit and got into the side of Michael and turned him momentarily and off the road. Stills look at that one and make a judgment, but meanwhile the racing continues.
Preston, even though they're, what is he, 9th right now, I believe, still leading in the National AM category in that 51 Panos Avezzano GT. And we have a new overall leader. Miller's through, Cal.
Takes that lead. Travis is going to be content with just sitting there and maximizing his point score once again. It's going to be a big day for John Miller. Could get the title they've been searching for. And you'd expect it with the driver pairing of Gartzacker and Miller.
Yes.
They're pretty much even on pace. So I think Miller had the upper hand in the early races as Gartzacker got adjusted to the BMW, but he's come on strong here in the second part of the season.
Maybe that was Miller's motivation. I know I can clinch. Let's do it with an overall win, though. That's always very sweet. There's Kozaroff. And just a couple of cars in front of him now is that Mustang of Gannett. That margin now, Cal, between those guys is 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's ominous, right?
It truly is.
We thought there was enough time on the board. How far can Kozaroff go up the overall order? He's going to try and catch Samantha and get around her and then put the pressure on Frank Gannett for the class lead.
And looking at the times up at the front, Miller, once he got through, turned a 1:18.7, but Travis a 1:19.4, and look, Gannett a 1:19.6, running with Matt Travis in comparable times.
And Samantha Tan, really impressive too, in the mid to high 19 range. So this is a great performance by her.
Yep. And then you got, but the problem is behind them, you got Kozaroff lapping in the low 18s.
But when you compare Samantha's times to our leader, John Miller, she's running right about a second delta. So that's really, really impressive with the amount of experience that she has.
Exactly.
Gaining confidence all of the time. She's under a new regime. We talked about Jason Welth being under the guidance of Nick Johnson. Nick is also working with Samantha this year, really getting her dialed in and focused on every aspect of the game, not just the driving, the fitness level, the focus, the attention to detail that it takes to be at the top of the class.
Well, that's something that gets overlooked a little bit, you know, fitness and all that, but the focus, you know, I mean, to really be a successful driver, you've got to be able to compartmentalize and truly focus. And that's, I think you're right. I think that's where she's made some significant gains this year.
With racing, there can be so many distractions. It's a great sport to be involved in as Kozaroff makes the move down to the inside. Samantha wisely gives him plenty of room. He's on the attack. He is going after Frank Gannett for the class lead next.
And that's the margin. Gannett heading into turn 4. Kozaroff approaching with some pretty stout pace. Remember at CTMP when, I can't remember who it was now, but was chasing Frank right near the end and tried him a couple of times in turn 8. And Frank just shut the door and floated big speed through there. See what if he's up to it here to have some sort of defense.
He's a great character, and when you try, and I don't know him that well, but when you read into his personality, I think once he gets the confidence, he is going to be stubborn. He's not just going to be easy pickings.
Yeah, yeah.
Now he's got the speed behind the wheel. He's a great asset to our championship.
Boy, this is tightening up in a hurry, down to just a matter of car lengths here as we get into the final 8.5 minutes.
Frank can really carve some of these corners, Greg.
Yes, he can.
The way he attacks turn 12 there, that Mustang is working really well, and he rolls really good speed.
All right, Kozaroff he gets so deep on the brakes. And that's where this it gets real interesting.
Yeah, just beautiful flow.
Yeah.
The Audi looks to be working really well.
And Kozaroff, he will pick his spot, won't he? You think he'll try something to 7 maybe here?
Possibly. He's got plenty of time. I mean, yes, if he gets by Frank, maybe he can start to put some pressure on Travis and Miller up ahead of him. But right now, he's just thinking about the class win. That didn't take long, did it?
No. But Frank getting a nice drive out of that turn with all that grunt has closed right back up on the back of Kozaroff. Swinging, Kozaroff drifts over. Gannett gonna make it at least a little bit of a challenge here. Swinging out to this side, Kozaroff drifts across again. I'm loving seeing this from Frank Gannett.
Well, we knew the Audi was maybe a little bit suspect compared to the Mustang there in straightaway speed, but I thought Frank would just tug in. No, he was willing to dodge side to side as Vesco was kind of moving around a little bit down that back straightaway.
He got Vesco to have to commit so fast into 10 and 11. He was throwing up puffs of dust as he was dropping tires. That was great stuff. No doubt enjoying that moment down at pit lane. Jeff Burton, Ryan.
Yeah, big smile on Jeff's face as the car came around, and you could tell he had made that spot. Big round of applause from the team as well. This means a lot to you guys.
Yeah. We've worked really hard. Too bad we haven't had some practice time. We're still making adjustments in qualification, so that was tough on us. Vesco's run a super race. I just didn't make any mistakes today. I made some terrible mistakes yesterday, what cost us, so Vesco's made up some big time today.
That's the nice thing about this format, right? If you're not happy with how it goes in race one, you got another race the next day. You got to put it behind you quick.
That's true. And this track is so technical, it's so tough to pass some people in some spots. So he's done a great job. This team's done a great job. We got to finish this race still. We've still got, 4 or 5 minutes still to go.
That's right. Fingers crossed.
Hope for the best. Yeah.
Exactly, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, he's happy, but you can tell he doesn't want to jinx it by making any kind of assumption. You racers, you can definitely be a superstitious bunch on occasion, can't you? So good
Glass
stuff,
is
though.
always half empty, right?
Exactly. But Miller continues to build that margin, now up to 3.5 seconds up front. Miller leading away here. Travis second. Kozaroff now third. And he's been lapping in the half to second quicker than Travis here, Cal, and at 3.5, does he have enough time?
Yeah, he could be right on his tail. I'm not sure he's got enough time to get him, and I'm not sure if Travis really cares. They're not battling for the same class win here this afternoon, and that could certainly aid Kozaroff's progress.
Matt Travis in the number 47 NOLA Sport Vest Energy Group car, second overall right now, but leading in the National Pro-Am class. There's your overall leader, leading in the Western Pro-Am class, John Miller. But all eyes right now, the car that's going to pop into view behind that yellow and black Porsche. There it is, the blue and black Audi of Vesco Kozaroff. And it's really coming down to a matter of time.
It is, and I think he's going to get there. He's certainly displaying great speed. He's cutting into that gap to the driver in front. Look at the line he runs through there, just maximizes that radius. He is going to be, how aggressive will Vesco be? Typically doesn't mess around long.
That's true. He's decisive when it happens. Let's see. Look at that. He just turned a 1:18.1 Cal to a 1:19.5 for Travis. And that margin went from 3.6 to 2.2 just that fast.
Yeah, well, if he catches him quickly and disposes of him, does he then set sights on Miller for the overall lead and overall win? Miller now going to hit a little bit of traffic. That's Ramsey recovering from that earlier spin, or should he got knocked off the circuit, just went for a ride himself.
That is the Ramsey Racing EXR team by Prima entry. First run of the season with Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X competition, and there's Miller flashing the lights going, I'm coming. Let me slide on through here. And Ramsey does a very nice job of that, lets him go. And then there's Travis, and then Kozaroff.
Kozaroff just seems to trim about a third of a second off in all three sectors here.
Just really, there it is. That margin now is down to a matter of car lengths. Boy, he just floats speed through that last. He's willing to run as close to those barriers as he needs to make sure he's not scrubbing one iota of pace.
He's in a rhythm.
Yeah.
The car's working well. They said they lost a little bit of track time and recovered nicely. And they're not worried about making the little changes to the setup. I mean, I think that's what Vesco brings to the table as well. Obviously, we can see his talent behind the wheel, but I think he's pretty good on the technical side. However, he always tries to compromise that setup that he can like it, and also his teammate Jeff Burton to give him the confidence as well, as we discussed yesterday.
Well, this is going to be an interesting dynamic because Travis could get caught here up into 7. He's got it, and we've seen Kozaroff be absolutely decisive right here. Wasn't quite close enough that time. And now Travis, be interesting to see just how hard he defends on Kozaroff, as you said, Cal, because it's not a battle for class position at all.
Kozaroff may just clear the Mercedes well before they get to the high-speed 10-11 sector right there. Miller will be looking in his mirror. The team will be giving him the information. Again, he's just focused on the championship and the class win here today. Kozaroff's progress has been stymied a little bit, probably taking him a little bit longer to get by Travis than maybe he was hoping for, to maybe get to Miller as well. Just over 2 minutes to go.
Should be 2 laps to go here as Miller in the Laurel BMW of Westmont GPI Biotech machine. There goes Kozaroff straight to the apex.
Just straight lines it in there, allows him to take his brakes super deep. He doesn't have a lot of steering input as he's making that move. Just piles it down the inside. He's got the suspension working well so he can run that inside curb without unsettling that Audi. Now he's going to set sail. He's got a lap and a half to try and chase down that BMW, but John Miller has a healthy lead. He's got a pretty quick race car. It's not as quick as Kozaroff's right now, but he has the margin, I think, to still get that overall win here today.
I think Miller wants this overall win because that last lap, Cal, he dipped right into the 118s and responded. And as Kozaroff was working through Travis, he's opened up a little bit more of a margin here, Miller has. Frank Gannett still running in 4th, 2nd in the Western Am category, so an overall top 5 will be a great show for them. And then Samantha Tan. Talked about that. That's mighty impressive what she's doing here. Shimshak has now turned to 1:17.6 and is 3.5 seconds behind Samantha Tan. I don't think there's enough time left, even at the pace he's running. But here we go. White flag for John Miller in the GPI Laurel BMW ST Racing machine. Starts the final lap here of this 10th round of the Pirelli GT4 America's Sprint X Championship. And Kozaroff at the line. Yeah, still 4.2 back.
Yeah, I think it's should be plain sailing here for John Miller. Real talented drivers, now starting to get his recognition and get some rides globally as well. Runs in the VLN Championship. And he's starting to get the attention he deserves. He's one of those young drivers who looked like he's going to slip through the net, but now the opportunities are coming his way, and I think he's on form enough to maybe jump into a big high-profile seat here pretty soon.
I remember back in the day when he first started in the Pirelli World Challenge Championship in the touring cars. We used to call him Mr. Excitement because he tended to be throw the car around, he has developed into an absolutely, and has become a very sought-after coach as well.
Yeah, he's the total package.
Yep. And he's got just a couple of corners to go. There is Kozaroff. Kozaroff is going after it, but John Miller onto the front straight. Miller, Gottsacker, ST Racing, and BMW. Look at that, the celebration as he comes through. Not only a win in the Western Pro-Am category, an overall win, and by our always somewhat sketchy math, Cal, perhaps a championship clinch for that team.
Yeah, looks like he's going to go and celebrate down in the Shelton chicane.
Kozaroff 2nd overall, winning in the Western Am category. Travis 3rd overall, winning in the National Pro-Am category. And then a serious tip of the hat to Frank Gannett. Top 5 finish overall, 2nd in the Western Am category. And same for Samantha Tan, Western Pro-Am. 2nd place podium and a top 5 overall. just some superb racing. So great stuff all. And winning in the National AM category, it was Preston Calvert and Matt Keegan on Matt Keegan's birthday. Wow, what a finish. What, as always, a drive by Vesko Kozaroff. Man, he just never disappoints when he gets behind the wheel of the car. There's always something going on. But I really think that we've seen some real breakthrough drives here today.
Curious there, I saw Frank Gannett and Kozaroff get a little bit close there on this cool-down lap, so I'm not sure if Frank was maybe a little upset with Kozaroff in terms of how he was placing that Audi. Remember that little duel we had there for half a lap, and I'm not sure if Frank was giving a little bit of language there.
No, Kozaroff was drifting a little bit.
Maybe reading too much into it, but you see Kozaroff is back way out of the situation.
Yeah.
If there was one.
Yep. Miller almost thought he was supposed to turn left there and head into the pits. He's coming around. Boy, what a great show. And what a great day for that team, ST Racing. Completing the podiums in the various classes. Third in the Western Pro-Am is the Mercedes of Shimshak. Second in National Pro-Am, the Dexter Ginetta. What a run for those guys.
Great
That's
debut race
stuff.
weekend for them. Two really impressive young drivers, the brothers.
Yep.
Come from Trans Am competition. Shimshak was absolutely flying great.
Yes.
I mean, that car was hooked up.
Yep. Then McAleenan and Lowe, third in the Western Am Championship in the old school Maserati. And then Quinlan and Lithafouge in the National Pro-Am. So great stuff. In he comes after a tire warming celebration down in the Shelton Chicane. John Miller. Think he's pumped?
He should be. It's a big day.
Overall win and a clinch. Out of the car comes John Miller and does so with some serious celebrations, as I think it's maybe starting to sink in a little bit. Yeah, we won, but we did it overall, and we probably clinched our championship a race weekend early. That special stuff.
And while there, great PR lady in charge of the ST Racing program.
Annie Wise.
So congratulations to Miss Harriet's teammate.
She's one of the grand ladies of motorsports. No question of that. And there's Mr. Miller getting a big hug from his teammate. Ryan?
Congratulations, guys. A fantastic win, and by our math, which is always a little bit hazardous, but we believe you are your class champions for the season with 2 rounds to go as well. John, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We believe that too. Hope the math checks out, but yeah, what a heck of a weekend, a heck of a race car. Thank you, BMW. Thank you, ST Racing. Thanks, Harry Gottsacker. Awesome teammate, awesome season we put together. It's awesome to get an overall win, our second one of the season. I think our fourth win total. Just total hats off to this crew. Car was awesome. Pirelli tires were awesome. Great racing out there. 2 green flag races this weekend. What can I say about SRO? Just awesome.
You have a long history in this series. What does this accomplishment mean?
It means a whole hell of a lot. I've been trying to win a championship for a long time, and to do it in a BMW, which is the first car that I raced at a professional level in 2007. It means a lot. So thank you.
Harry, we'll have you step in as well. A big part of this, of course, we've talked so much throughout the broadcast about possibly the advantage that you guys have when you have 2 drivers that are basically the same on pace in a class like this. You talked about it with me earlier in the weekend, Harry, that it just seems like this has just gone according to plan.
No, exactly. Yeah, I can't. It's hard to describe. It's just an amazing feeling. We're champions. It's awesome.
Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can hear the emotion there. And for John, it's kind of awesome.
It is. I mean, as he said, it's it's awesome.
It is.
But, you know, reflecting back, 2007, he said it's taken him a long time. 12 years at the level of talent that he has to get that first championship. Racing is not easy, and you need to celebrate like he will tonight.
You bet. You work hard to earn these, and it takes a lot to put a win like that together, a championship like that together, even if it's a regional championship. Look who they're racing against, and then they beat them overall to clinch. I mean, that's the great reward as well. And again, just a tremendous drive as always by Kozaroff, another great drive by Travis. Gannett and Tan showing us that they are making huge strides in what they're capable of. And again, Shimshak at the end of that race was just a rocket ship. Speaking of rocket ships, however, our Western Am winner, Mr. Kozaroff, Ryan.
Yes, and second overall, we talked to Jeff Vesco as you were making your charge through the field. What was that like behind the wheel? It had to be a lot of fun.
Little adventurous. I wish I was operating this machine here for sure, but no, it was a lot of fun. Jeff preserved the car really well for me, gave it to me in a good spot, gave us a shot to go for it for sure. We didn't quite get there, but it was fun while it lasted for sure. Reardon Racing guys gave me a fantastic car. I think it was really kind on its tires. It was fun to drive the whole time.
Great job today.
Thank you.
Use a line that you've used a couple of times, that carving, it's, you know, really able to carve the tires, and you know, on a track like this, that's huge, isn't it?
It is, and he said adventurous. I think there was maybe a little bit of needle there between he and Frank.
Yeah.
Certainly during the race and maybe afterwards, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But that's what the passion is all about. Everyone is up on the wheel and trying to give it 1,000,000% to grab those victories.
Well, my first thought would have been, you know, maybe they just came up side by side and said, hey, great battle. But then when you mentioned Kozaroff just dropped way back out, now there's more to it than that. At the start, Drew Staveley, as we expected, doing a great job. Had that little bit of a contact right there between the Porsche and the Ginetta. But Staveley was able to draw away, open up a little bit of a margin here. And again, the higher rated of the drivers starting off in the field, and they put on a great show.
They did. Jason Hart, a brilliant start putting that Nola Sport Porsche up into the second position. A little moment here, middle of the race. Audi gets it a bit wrong, gets into the side of Jared Andretti. You can see the damage immediately, so Andretti retiring that McLaren.
Yeah, it was a tough break. Casey Dennis, really talented driver, just got that Audi a little crossed up. And then this big moment here, Jason Hart coming up in the back of Dr. Rappaport, and just a little touch knocked him sideways, a great save. And then a little bit later in the going here, you see the move there as Matt Travis ducks underneath Gannett, picks up that position, but there's a lot more yet to come, Cal.
There really was. There's some great moves being made late in the day, but at the end, it was all about John Miller clinching that win and the championship.
And doing it in fine style overall here at Portland.